Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mortgage Heroes Weekly Podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
And today we are going to break down 4 industry articles, talk about it, share some opinion and insight. First up, we have 39-year-old millionaire who rents. Why I'm so much happier not being a homeowner, coming in from CNBC. Existing home sales rose 3% to start the year. Doomsdayers. Doomsday.
Here we go.
Housing collapse, people. Existing home sales rose 3% to start the year, but higher mortgage rates are already hurting CNBC. How do you solve the California housing crisis? Really interested in this one. You don't. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
That one's coming from Housing Wire. And then again from Housing Wire, mortgage applications slump as rates return to 7%. So we're going to start with the first thing being first. I picked this first because we are having this conversation in a lot of different ways, but let's get into that.
Yeah.
The title here is 39-year-old millionaire who rents. Why I'm so much happier not being a homeowner. So let's go over a couple of things that came from this interview with this gal. There are some things that are very unique to her situation and circumstances financially. But I know that we are hearing a lot more of this just culturally and generationally from younger people that, you know what, I don't want the responsibility of owning, or maybe I owned and I'm okay renting for the rest of my life because I have other things like freedom and flexibility and I can call someone when this thing breaks or whatever, So let's dig into this one a little bit.
And nothing wrong with that, right? Like,
well,
not everybody's made to be a homeowner. Not everybody
Correct.
wants all the maintenance and all that stuff that goes into it.
Well, in some states, half the people are renters. Like we were talking about the other day, like the percentage of homeownership is higher in Midwest than it is on some of the coastal areas, higher cost areas like California, New York, and Florida, and that Hawaii and all that. But it's like, okay, there's her version of this, and then there's everyone else's version.
And not to deviate from this topic, but I mean, we saw that new builders are actually building a lot of multi-unit for trying to make it like a renter's nation. So
and that's a response to demand and what people are doing with building an ADU. Fine, then we're going to just build you 2 units on one or 3 units on one. Yeah. And the cultural change and the shift of people from a investment perspective of real estate, not just buying it to live in it.
Yeah. So also, I mean, on the other side, culturally, like I feel that after 2020, I was telling William, a lot of the habits change in how people wanted to do life, buy things, experience, throughout what they wanted to do. So I think that also plays a big part in future goals and what they want to do as far as, ownership.
So this person that they're featuring in this article, she's saying growing up in New York as the 8th of 9 kids, first of all.
That was a lot of kids.
Wow. Immigrant parents. And then in 2013 bought her first home. Now, this first home was in Charlotte, North Carolina for $101,000. And she had a 10-year mortgage. So I did the math.
Oh, so did I.
Yeah.
No. What percentage rate? Oh, a great preparation, Brian. What percentage rate did you use?
I used 4% because I looked up average mortgage rate in 2013.
Excellent. Yeah. I went super high. So at 4%, $101,000, 10-year, what was the monthly payment?
So I put 20% down.
Okay.
For down payment, 4% rate, $973 on a 10-year term, which is 120 months.
Woo! Yeah.
So $973.
$973.
And then, but then I did the inverse, and if you would have done 30, it would have been like $500 a month.
Wow.
Now here's the thing: I did the conservative route. I took a higher interest rate with no money down. I just leveraged the entire thing. So I did $101,000 total loan, even though it wasn't a 100% loan.
Yeah.
And I did 6%. That payment was still only $1,121 a month.
Wow.
So $1,121.
Where do I find that?
So in 2013.
In 2013 and in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen that video where it's a guy taking an order? He's like, taking a client. Yeah, where did you want a house? Okay, for that much? Okay, great. So if you're going to want this house, Janet, you're going to have to go back to the 1960s.
Yeah.
So in this example, you see the evidence here in this demonstration. And again, we're going to get to more of the details here, but this is how people could start their real estate ownership and build portfolio and have a place. Was at $101,000. 11 years ago now in North Carolina, and under $1,000 monthly payment in his scenario, or just over $1,100 in the one I'm talking about. Yeah. Comparatively, by the way, sorry, this was a single family residence with 2 bedrooms and just about 1,500 square feet. Now, if you want that same apartment right now in San Diego, it's $3,000 or $3,500,
depending
or
where.
$4,000, right? Yeah. So you're talking a multiple of like 3 times the equivalent here in San Diego. But this is how most people started, and historically have started by buying their starter home. I'm using the word right now. It's their starter home, and this does not exist anymore. We are so far from this. you know, I want to say somewhere else in here, they're talking about like the median house price now is $367,000, something like that. So I understand this. And from that point, she has bought and sold, her and her husband have bought and sold multiple homes and paid off $300,000 of debt and made her first million. Ding, ding, ding. There you go. So she made $1 million in business. But this represents a new attitude towards shelter and how people look at shelter. And I think that is why I wanted to talk about this one is, like, do you think that the 2020 you're mentioning earlier, like, do you think that was the catalyst for all this? Or do you think that some of this was already happening earlier and then 2020 was like fuel on the fire, like gasoline on it?
I feel that a lot of people were already looking for a way or trying to find some sort of, you know, code to break into, like, to get the freedom. But 2020, unfortunately, was, you know, a tale of two evils. And one of them was, hey, like, bad, you get everyone's dying out in the streets. But at the same time, a lot of people found out that, hey, I don't need to be at an office to work. Hey, I don't need to always see people face to face. And also, look at all this freedom I now have, you know, like, oh, I could go do this. I don't have to be tied down to a location where I'm at all the time. So I feel that really was, you know, the nail in the head that really just put everything, you know, in pace for people to be like, yeah, now I want to reevaluate the way that I, you know, live and do life.
Because that's what it was, right? She bought 3 properties in the 10-year span, sold them all, and became a millionaire with that, which she used the stepping stone of real estate to get into and build a little small portfolio and just make nice income out of it, which is great.
And that's one thing that they, you know, kind of failed to highlight, the fact that that was her vehicle that she rode to get to the $1 million, to get to the freedom, to then not be a homeowner, to then be able to use that money to invest, you know, however the heck she wants it. In this case, her business, her lifestyle, and whatever she wants to do.
She is into paying off debt. That's what she's all about. That's her career.
Finance coach or something.
I mean, she went buying this property in 2013 and saying by 2019, I was a proud homeowner with a paid off mortgage. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, when you have a $1,100 payment in North Carolina.
Now, to your previous point, you know, that's kind of a page out of the old blueprint, right? You know, we've talked about this on previous shows where you're like, hey, yeah, that's cool. That was the old blueprint. That was like the boomer blueprint. Like, buy the house, keep it, stay in it, and pay it off.
Yeah.
This is a little bit different, of course, where it's like, you know, you're buying the house super cheap. It's your starter home, short-term mortgage, low monthly payment, pay it off, and now you're young and you have your house paid free and clear and still got rid of it.
Yeah.
Now, the exchange here that is represented, or that's referenced in the article, is that, she says this, I feel like my space is more manageable.
Yeah.
It's a little smaller place that she's renting, a 2-bedroom apartment in Charlotte still, at $2,553.
Yeah.
Which is more than double the cost that both of him and I came up in our little scenario of looking what the mortgage payment would be. Double the cost, of course, 11 years later. But for a space that's representatively about the same, 2 bedrooms, and 1,200 square feet for the apartment now versus 1,496 of the house before.
Yeah.
So not much of a change, and I guess maybe given the fact that she's achieved millions and, you know, has her own business, maybe the difference between $1,100 or $1,000 a month and $2,500 is like, whatever, who cares?
No, correct. I mean, having renting versus buying has a lot of pros and cons to it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when you rent, you could go on a month to month. When you're owning, it's just something that's going to be fixed for a long time. It will provide that stability, you know, and so, and fixed payments, unlike when you're renting month to month, maybe the landlord may want to sell. And rents do increase. You know, we're also talking about lower upfront costs when you're going into renting versus, we already know we have to pay a down payment, closing cost.
New furniture, you know, things you got to do, little repairs, DIYs.
And then a lot of people are like, well, what about the maintenance that goes into it, right? I'm going to have this maintenance when I rent. I have none. I don't have to worry about being like that landlord / homeowner.
Boom, pipe breaks. Who do you call? You're gonna have to.
Well, that's what. I mean, even here, it's like there's this peace of mind. Like she literally says, we now outsource maintenance and headaches to our property manager, and our emergency fund covers closer to 5 months instead of 3, and we sleep better at night. That to me means peace of mind, and someone else can do it.
Yeah. And that's what I was gonna say though as well. That, you know, the way that they have built their life is around you know, what the clarity of, you know, what they already envisioned. So for them, this is what makes sense for them, you know, in their life plans. But somebody else might have a different situation. So
no, exactly. You know, I mean, here it is. The decision to rent or buy should be based on the experience of your lifestyle. You know, your mobility. Do I want to be there in downtown, you know, or if I have 5 kids like myself, I have too many of them, maybe the downtown life, it's not going to be not right now, you know, maybe later. And so maybe in time I'll decide, hey, let me just get rid of this and have less maintenance, etc. And so maybe I will go rent.
Hey, let me get rid of the kids and just go downtown.
Well, and it gets interesting because you kind of fold that same kind of concept into how, they reference here, her and her husband, they felt isolated living in the suburbs during shutdown, and it made them realize how much more they wanted a walkable environment. Now that dovetails right into the next thing, which was about before landing the current apartment they have now, they were trying to get back in the market. So there is an attempt to get back in, and they put in a cash offer that was highly competitive for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo without any amenities that they wanted, and they still didn't get it. So they ended up not getting what they wanted, even when they made an attempt. And now they are in a situation where, because they, let's say, went with renting, they have the amenities they want and the ability to walk around and do the things that they want to do in that way. And it's a complete shift. It's a complete shift of perspective. Yeah. And then, they're investing more in their future. So investing in high yield savings accounts and CDs, having passive income, and then covering the roughly $2,500 a month expenses that the rent incurs. Yeah. So basically, she's like net flowing what we're talking about all the time with ADUs, or people putting money over here to pay off that over there, or when you buy a house here in San Diego and then you get PCS somewhere else as an active duty military, you keep your house here, and the person that's got the BAH that pays for your mortgage, like they're doing the thing we talk about all the time.
Exactly. I mean, for me myself, since I've had the experience of actually renting and owning, I'd rather own. Right? I like the stability side of it, where my kids already know what schools are going to go, where the community they're going to build in. And I'm okay with that, and I'm also okay if you're renting, right? In this case, there was no mention of kids. The situation may be very different, where they like to go just have wine and have things accessible. So I'm good with either way.
Yeah. And one thing she mentioned, she's like, I'm glad we didn't settle for something we didn't like as much just to say we're homeowners. And previous we were saying like, hey, that's the new brag. But then it comes out that it really just matters what you want in life and what's going to drive you and make you happy. So in this case, maybe that wasn't the brag that they were looking for. The freedom is.
I still think that rings true because, you're referencing a couple shows ago and we talked about, is homeownership the newest humble brag? And that was a great question. And for some people that they're put off by the whole, I'm a homeowner, fine, that's fine, be put off by that. But people who are looking for, let's say, a partner in their life that is a homeowner and also shares that same value, I think this comes to values.
Oh, of course.
So this 100%. Is, and that's why I picked this one for this week. You'd submit it to me, and you're like, hey, like I got a good article. I was like, dude, let's do this one first, because this does address that like change in the shift in the tide of how people are looking at real estate when they're in these 20s and 30s.
Exactly, because if you read the article, I mean, isn't she bragging?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is this the new humble brag? Cash flow, and I got freedom and flexibility.
That's what I'm saying. Her
more money in my CDs, more money to invest into,
Her brag was my freedom, my ability to do whatever I want whenever I want. Like, you can still do that if you have a house, but her situation just made that, hey, this is what works for me right now. And I think that's great because she's like, I can invest more in myself and in my future.
Exactly.
And I feel if you're taking it from that approach and you're still investing what you would already be putting down somewhere else, but you're, like you said, moving the money around, putting it over there. If you're still moving the ball down the line, progressing in your life, you're building, then does it really matter how you get to the freedom that you want?
No. I mean, very valid. I get to invest more in my retirement. I have my fund for, vacationing. It's all good. It's a good brag.
Yeah. In this situation, their seed money that they parked in investment returns is paying for the expense of living in the apartment. So yeah, it could be paying the expense of living in the apartment or living it into a condo or something else they own. But the bottom line is that their cash to pay for it is coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's coming from that strategic approach of putting the money in all these other various places that generate these returns that they need to cover it all.
And also, we don't know what sacrifices or, what situations they were in when they owned those other houses. What they also bought 3 houses that helped them propel to where they're at right now. So that's also a huge catalyst that helped them get to where they're at.
There's a lot to like pull from this just because we know we're in situations like this with people, so we know that means this, that means that. And so the other thing I want to make sure I highlight to everybody is in this article is that this is a process. This goes back to my point of like this isn't an overnight thing. This references her first purchase of 2013, which is now 11 years ago. So you can look at this and go, isn't that good for her? Overnight success. No, there's no overnight in 11 years of work and paying things off and doing the deeds, right?
Yeah, doing.
So just a cautionary reminder. Like the work is required still.
And she talked about that, right? Like I don't, I was a property manager. It's like I had to have another fund for repairs, etc.
Yep.
But what I did like is she says I want to be clear that I don't think it's a poor decision to own a home.
Yeah.
And it isn't financially fully to rent, if that's what you feel is the right thing, right? And so at the end, she says, I'm happy where I am.
Yeah. And
that's
all
that matters.
I read the book recently, and it's called 10X is Better Than 2X. It's not a Grant Cardone book. It's called 10X is Better Than 2X. But the concept is like you can want what you want, and you don't have to explain yourself to anybody.
Exactly.
If you just want to do your life that way, go do it. That's fine.
Yeah.
You don't owe me an explanation. You don't owe any of us an explanation. If that's what you want to have a blue shirt versus a purple shirt, fine, go get a blue shirt. Like, no one cares.
Yeah.
Just go get it. And if you want to live your life this way, and she has the let's say financial success and fortitude to be able to do that,
No, absolutely.
Congratulations, actually.
An example I like to use is like my sister. My sister has a heck of a great payment where she's at for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, renting from a landlord that's been very good to her.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, I don't own a home. And I'm like, sometimes it's overrated. Look how much more you're able to do from paying your $1,500 versus now for a 3-bedroom, it's like $4,000.
$4,000.
How much more is that going to take? Yeah, you'll build it, you'll have tax benefits, you'll have some things, but you know what? She also has the benefits right now that you could pour more into your retirement, or you can do more of those things you want with your younger daughter.
Well, because that money would be going to debt servicing.
That's correct.
If it weren't going towards.
Yeah. So nothing wrong with it. Everybody, has their own way of dealing with things.
I agree.
So
I agree.
Don't overrate it.
One. This was a real good one, Brian. Brian, thank you. Good find on that. You're not even 39 yet, and you're like, hey, check this out, 39-year-old millionaire.
Shoot.
But hey,
10 more years.
That's good forecasting for you, isn't it?
10 more years.
Brian will be 39 millionaire in a couple of years. So. Next, guys, existing home sales rose 3% to start the year, but higher mortgage rates are already hurting. Now, hurting doesn't mean making house prices go negative. But again, we're talking about existing home sales rising 3%. This isn't declining. This isn't in free fall. And also, this is existing home sales, not home prices. So the doomsdayers about price and sales, it's again, sorry, this is in the positive territory. It's a plus 3%, not a negative 3%. Sales of previously owned homes rose in January, boosted by lower mortgage rates and back in November and December. And the median existing home price for all housing types in January was $379,000, up 5.1% from a year earlier, and an all-time high for the month of January.
Yeah.
So here we are marching along into the new year. Happy New Year. It's January. Boom. Existing home sales are rising, and so is the median existing home price.
But right there, like I was saying, it's all the momentum that came over from previous years. So the data for me is a little bit skewed because it isn't new data. It's data that's rolling over from stuff that was already current. They just closed 2 months after.
Correct. I mean, we got to remember October was just brutal.
Yeah.
That's when rates were at 8%, right?
That small window was the time where everybody jumped in and we saw the numbers, but then where is it at?
Yeah, November, December. And so, exactly. And here it is, as soon as, now we're going into the month of February, ending it. And, rates, we already saw that we're in the high sevens, in the low sevens, but we're over the 7 mark now. And it just pumps the brakes.
And the thing is about it is like, yes, it's that carryover from the November, December coming off of that terrible October. There's also a revitalization of, I think, sentiment from people. Like, it's the new year. This is the year I'm going to do it. Yeah. And they've started already. Like, you guys took more applications in January than you did in, I'd say, December and November maybe together.
Yeah.
But, and that results in open escrows now in February and in March. But here's the thing. Even though this is still increasing in a positive territory, we're still at a 3-month supply of housing versus the 6-month, which they consider a balanced market. So we're still out of kilter when it comes to how much inventory we need to, let's say, right size the amount of homes that are exchanging hands. And that is then because of that, we have yet to see if that's actually going to hold prices steady, drop them, or let them continue to rise. And a lot of that has to do with the rate.
Yeah. I mean, I have this grin because I just don't see more supply coming up that quick,
Yeah.
We're going to see it. But we already know as, supply dwindles, it's just going to get that much more competitive out there.
It is on price. Absolutely. I know we had talked at one of our shows, like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago now, we were making wagers on how many home sales we're going to see. I think I was at the very, very high end of that. So I'm probably going to eat it on that.
Yeah. It's like they say, as demand slows, inventory grows.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're waiting for.
One thing I did wanted to mention is that mid-price homes are going to be the ones that have the highest competition.
Of
course. And I feel because of that's where everybody's trying to purchase in. Like if you're out in the millions, in luxury jumbo loans, there's not much competition there. You could probably snag a good deal because that house is going to be sitting on for months, if not weeks. But the mid-price homes where it's a condo, a 2-bed, starter homes for that matter, everybody's swarming towards those because those are what's somewhat affordable or or attainable at that moment, depending on when they get approved. So big pressure on that, I feel, coming in as the year progresses as well.
Even further to your point, the last article we're talking about where this gal, her first home she bought in 2013 was $101,000. Even at that time, that was well below median. And we're talking about Charlotte, North Carolina, which is, I think, traditionally below median. That's maybe true or not. I don't know. I don't know where they are on the plus or minus side of median. But now we're talking median $379,000. So I mean,
that it?
Remember when conforming loan limits were 417
For a long time.
For a long time, the conforming loan limit was 417,000. Now
For
we're talking
years.
about median home price at 279.
Yeah. And now what, $1.6 million?
Ooh,
Crazy.
so,
Who would have known?
Inflation.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, also interesting in here though is that even though listings are higher because rates are a little bit lower, those do couple and they go hand in hand a little bit. Still, 16% of the homes that were sold above list price. So, we talk about, and we've discussed this about the amount of homes listed that sell for below list price. It's typically 30 to 35%. Now you're saying 16% are sold above list price and the remainder are at price. And the elevated share of cash deals, 32%.
That's what I was
Dude,
crazy.
32% of deals being done cash.
Yeah.
That cash is coming from somewhere.
Investor money and deep pockets just enter the chat.
But here's the other thing, guys. A lot of times, let's not just think that it's hedge funds, investors. It could very well be people who are actually bridging, their loans and paying because they have enough equity in their property. They're going to sell. They don't want to compete with other people, so they'll put a cash offer on there.
Yeah.
And what they'll do is they'll be provided with a bridge loan. Once hey, we're going to give you a loan for this one, all cash, because we're already going to sell your other property. Once that sells, that's how you'll be able to repay us back.
So it's not in the way in my head where someone just shows up with a pillowcase and is full of bands. Oh, okay.
Oh, and you meet at a bridge?
Yeah.
Not a bridge.
You cross the bridge with your pillowcase full of hundreds. No, that's not how it goes.
Yeah.
First-time home buyers made up only 28% of sales, and when historically they make up 40%. I think that, again, evidences and kind of confirms that it's been more and more difficult on the affordability scale for first-time home buyers.
Of course.
Partly because of income, partly because of the price to get in, the entry fee, or the fee for admittance, right? I don't know. I don't know how you make up that gap, though, either, guys.
I mean, that's crazy. First-time home buyers made up 28% of sales.
Right.
Historically, they make about 40%.
And
that's a big change.
And so here's what it doesn't say, but it says that means that the other 72% are people that are already in. So they're already in the game. We're talking a minute ago about, you can be a renter if you want. That's fine. Be a renter. But if you're in, it looks like right now, if you've already been in real estate, you stand a better chance of continuing to be in real estate.
Yeah.
And if you punch your own ticket out of real estate, that's your own choice. But it's kind of like once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
And only negative circumstances might kick you out. But, I mean, this is a very low rate of first-time home buyers, and this is not a black eye per se, but this is not what they want. No. If you're saying historically you're at 40%, and now you're at 28%, that's a 30% decline, 40 to 28.
I'm glad
that's
somebody
a lot.
can do math.
That's a lot.
Me too. I'm like, where are my brains at?
But I mean, just think about that. Like that's a substantial difference on the negative side, and that doesn't help. I think give confidence to people that are trying to be first time home buyers. But it is what it is.
We need more homes.
We need more listings.
Let the builders build.
Let the builders build and bring. Hey, if you're looking to sell your house right now. There's someone who's in the 28%. Oh, want to buy first time buyer. Let's
sell your house.
Let's help get that number back up to 40.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, how do you solve the California housing crisis? Everyone fire off in the chat right away.
Damn,
go.
This is
ready to go.
When I saw this, I was just like, the only way to do it is like, we have to have some type of process on when we got to streamline permit process.
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
Right? we have to, simplify and accelerate the process for new home builders.
Well, let's set the stage on this a little bit because you're right. I totally agree with that. I think that's one of a couple things we need to do.
Of course, there's so many more
the three of us need to do. Collectively need to happen for the benefit of California. So, notoriously high home prices are to blame, with monthly payments for a typical California home sitting at more than $5,500 per month.
Prospectively, that's around $66,000 a year.
Very good.
The average cost of living in California, I looked it up, $53,082, up to $70K in densely populated areas.
Jeez.
So Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco. Hey, we're in San Diego.
Yeah,
right?
hello.
And that's spending penny for penny on your mortgage.
And that's just your mortgage, your cost of living. So where's your living? Where's your
extra money to spend?
Where's your, you're just working.
How do I feed my child?
So we have a supply shortage, and then we also have supply shortage goes hand in hand with not enough building over the course of time that you would need to be where we're supposed to be at to right size the population with the amount of homes that we need. So real quick, I'm just going to rattle off some of these numbers. So in 2000, the California Association of Realtors stated that they would need 250,000 new units per year to keep up with demand. So the state has not ever gotten close to that number, and now it's 2 to 2.5 million units behind. And for the last 10 years, building permit numbers never surpassed 120,000 units, which is still less than half of what the demand they're saying they need. So
what I thought was even more crazy, 2023, California only issued 70 permits for a single family
70,000 permits.
70,000 permits.
Yeah. So
again, going back to streamlining the permit process.
Okay. So
there's more.
We have people leaving California, but not enough to absorb the distance between what our demand is and what the supply is. We have obviously builders involved in this conversation. So, what are we to do? What do you guys think? Given the kind of the framework of this article and this part of the conversation, what do you think needs to be done first?
I think that the
Streamline
legislation
the
needs to be a lot
permitting
better,
process, guys. Like, that's what it is. This is what we're lacking. If you're looking and seeing here that they only, they never surpassed 120 units permits, and now they just assigned 70. What is that telling us?
Yeah.
That our permitting process isn't in the right place. That we need to figure out, how do we accelerate that? How do we simplify that process so that builders are encouraged to go in there?
Yes.
How do we utilize the zoning reforms?
There's that. And then also, I don't know if you guys caught this or not, locally here in San Diego, there was a development that was proposed here east of where our office currently is that got the land that was dedicated for 1,300 units got bought by an environmental group so that it could not be developed.
Well, there it is.
And so I don't know what percentage of us being behind as a state is due to that same set of activities where, oh, wait, we don't want them to build further into this or further over there or protect the environment, so we won't build there. But now in not building there, then we can't have the supply that we're also saying that we need to have.
And to amplify what William said, right here in the article, 140 distinct pieces of legislation on housing affordability since 2016 have been put in place, yet we're still facing problems.
Made much impact in permitting numbers.
So then I took it to, few back conversations. I'm like, okay, so then if the government's supposed to step in and help, but they're stepping in and they're not helping, or the help that they're providing isn't making much impact, then what do you really do?
Yeah.
I honestly believe you let the builders build, you let capitalism do what capitalism does, and innovate when things need to be innovated.
I think you have to. I mean,
I don't see any other logical way of fixing this, because this is the logic we've been taking.
I want to remind you guys of the conversation we had about the insurance carriers that have left California. Well, something's going to have to entice them to come back. Similarly, something's going to have to entice these developers and builders to build, but they can't be landlocked and blocked from the access to the land in order to do so. So on one hand, you have, we're way behind on number of units we need to have in the marketplace. On the other hand, we don't want you building.
Oh, can't build here. Wait, can't build here.
And then,
can't build here.
And then
can't build here.
Also, we have buildings that are vacant. Oh, that we're not going to let you convert.
Oh, no, those are too expensive to convert.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder, and it makes me question, what do they actually really want?
Yeah.
What do you actually want?
Those are the things that I put right there. It's just, we have to utilize public land better.
Yes.
We zoning, reforms, implement zoning reforms to allow higher density housing in urban areas and convert them from single family residence to multi-units.
100%.
Then I put right there, incentivize developments, right?
Yeah.
Developers, like, hey, tax benefits, stuff like that, so they can bring affordable housing, etc.
Yeah.
And our affordability, we have to improve our affordability. We just have none. Guys, it's crazy. Some people, I see them, I've done a refinance, helped them get their purchase. I'm refinancing 4 or 5 years later, and they only made $5,000, $10,000 more. How do you catch up 4 or 5 years later with that amount? It's not even catching up with inflation.
Right. Yeah.
So, we got all that good stuff, and then we just got to encourage it being innovative, like maybe having prefab homes that are already there that we can put in place that can be built, manufactured much faster, and put them in the land. I don't know.
Yeah, I know
That's the
legislation.
only way to do it. Yeah.
It's kind of like, I know, and I've said this before, it's like, we need to have legislation that will help open up these things, but then also citing what Brian's point was a minute ago, well, we have 140 distinct pieces of legislation on housing affordability since
How much more do we need?
And it also isn't getting us more inventory. It also isn't opening up. Now, and again, I'm not going to claim that this has not helped anybody, but it's not helping the 2 to 2.5 million supply that we're lacking.
Yeah.
That gap has not been covered. And if there is any connection to these 140 pieces of legislation, it hasn't shown up in the results yet.
So I feel that they cure the symptoms but not the disease, and they continue to just, come up with solutions that will basically put a Band-Aid on what's happening, and then after that, nothing ever gets done. Really, and we're back to the same problem. But they say, hey, throw some more legislation on there and see what happens.
So I had a conversation with a friend of mine where the community, he's moving out of state, and the community he's buying a home in is all single-story homes. You have to be 55 or older to buy there.
Wow.
And to use any of the amenities like the pool, the pickleball court, tennis court, basketball, you have to be 19 years or older. You have to be an adult.
Oh, I
and
thought you had
have
to carry a cane.
No, not a cane. No, not yet. I mean, if you're cool, it's a cool cane, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, so you have to be 55 or older to buy there. And then if you're going to use the amenities, you have to be 19 or older. So they do not have
Young
any
kids.
kids, let's say less than legal age, residents in the community. And so the developer specifically stated when he bought his lot, we are building these for people that are leaving California.
Wow.
And this is in Texas. And they have like a Facebook
build
group,
it, they
and
will
all these
come.
other owners are part of it. And he was saying that like all of them are connecting, like, oh yeah, we're from Orange County. Oh, we're coming from New York. Oh, we're leaving San Francisco. He's like, everyone's coming from all these big cities, and they're going.
That's not true. Nobody's leaving
Because they're-
San Diego.
I'm just saying that the developer in this case came up with a creative solution for what the market demand is. It's people that are like staring down retirement in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. They already own a home, and they can can sell here or sell wherever and move to this place, put some money down, buy a new home, single story, so they're going to stay there forever, right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
And they're building it in like it's like the bridge between a senior community and a community with no age limits, and kind of blending those together and going, here's this nice sweet spot where you can be active, own your own place, and you're not going to have the chaos of all the rules.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, speaking of being a homeowner, a lot of them, the Census Bureau here mentioned that only 55% of Californians are homeowners.
Right.
We're one of the lowest in the nation. I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's just still mind-boggling, right? Mm-hmm. So, crazy. We're still one of the most expensive.
I can see why now, though.
Well, and until we can, if you go upstream far enough, you get to this point where it talks about the cost per acre.
Yeah.
And
I saw that.
So the cost of a piece of land in Southern California is $3 to $4 million per acre, and for us, California as a whole, the cost is $700,000 to $8,000 per acre. So from the get-go, the cost of building is so much higher than other places. So you're already starting the conversation at a higher rate of cost to build than almost everywhere else, with the exception of some of these other places you mentioned before.
Yeah.
And then you have the restrictions and the zoning issues and that kind of thing. So on one hand, you have, does it financially make sense for the builders to do it? Will the government allow it? Will the permits and the zoning permit? Will the zoning permit for it? And then you have, people can they afford to buy it? When I'm done, like, can people actually buy this from me when I make it, or am I going to be taking steep discounts and haircuts for $50,000, $100,000 on the sales price, which now I have no margin left per sell?
I mean, the cool thing about this, that we got that SB 9 that was passed.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Which is encouraging homeowners to actually become the developers per se. And I think that's probably part of the idea of why they're allowing this to happen.
Yeah.
Is since the developers aren't coming in, well, hey, let's allow the homeowners, if they have a piece of land in there, why don't you build an ADU? Why don't you do a junior ADU, which is an additional dwelling unit. For many of us that don't know that acronym, it's just encouraging people like, hey, how do we utilize your land better?
Yeah.
Because we're running out of it. So build on that. Let's encourage you. Let's make the process a little easier. But I tell you, when I went through the process, it wasn't easier. It took a long time to get those permits.
And to that point, it's some people are willing to take that leap and say, hey, I'll take the time to do it. But then some people work all day. They don't have time to be checking up on the contractor, checking up on the permits. And unfortunately, things get dragged out because they aren't there to be, full on force a developer. Yeah. But at the same time, it leaves people with no measures, so they have to take that they have the responsibility or that new project on because their financial life or their situation is depending on it. Or down the line, they know that they're going to need that extra income.
But we talked earlier about the renter, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times as a homeowner, you just don't want to deal with all that stuff.
Yeah,
it's too much maintenance.
Yeah, but I think the SB 9 and what you're talking about with ADU building and people who being a developer, I think it's drawing drawing those people into that conversation. It's folding them into the solution partially. Now that solution is not going to make up 2 to 2.5 million of units that we're behind based on the car study, but maybe we don't ever get there. I mean, I know we're taking this as a snapshot of time. We're recording this on this day, and in the moment, this is what it is. It might get better, but when you do look at the steep contrast between the estimate that you need 250,000 new units or permits, and you're only getting 70,000 last year.
That's crazy.
That's huge.
Like that is actually a really big problem.
That's dangerous.
That's a really big problem, and I don't know that you go from $70,000 to $250,000 with the stroke of a pen, or through an election or a process or whatever. This is going to take time, so we'll probably end up coming back to this because until that number kind of like stops its slump and then corrects and gets back on its way on the acceleration, we're going to continue to have this problem.
I mean, it's still crazy, right? In 2000, we were short 2,500 homes. And only, what was it, 120?
250,000.
250,000,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
they're saying we need 250,000 homes per year.
Per year.
To
Yes.
meet demand.
To meet
Yeah, to meet
demand.
demand.
We're not even close.
We're not even close. And what I'm saying is even if demand
That's
goes down.
Y2K.
But even if demand goes down, like play this out. Like we're talking about people leaving California, right? So let's say that demand went down by 20%. That means you still need 200,000 homes.
Yeah.
If it went down 40%, you'd still need 150,000 homes. And we're at 70,000 new permits. So you're
even
still half of what that is after you chop off 40%.
That's crazy.
Like mathematically mathematically that's very ugly. All right, come on,
Unreal.
guys.
Unreal.
All right,
Unreal.
guys. Let's finish the so strong today.
Take us home.
Oh wait, whoops! Mortgage application slump as rates turn above 7.
Jesus Christ. Take us home.
Okay, mortgage application slump as rates return above 7%. This coming in from Housing Wire. First of all, I want to make sure I note when you guys confirm this is not for all loan types and not for all credit ranges and not for all types of purchase versus refinance, et cetera, et cetera. So, guys, what are people saying? What are they telling you? What are you hearing?
So a lot of people are starting to see that, the window was November, December, and then going into the new year, hey, rates are back to being high. But like I reminded you guys, for the last 4 years since 2020, these months have been very, very pivotal in the direction of how the market's going to perform for the remainder of the year.
Exactly.
So my biggest thing to take away from this, rates regardless go up, go down, day in, day out, week in, month, year over year. Data drives the rates. So I would position yourself in the vehicle that's going to allow you to understand the data that you can somewhat foretell and then take your cuts based off your situation, what you know and what you feel confident. Because as we saw, there's going to be windows of opportunities that you can jump in, get a good deal like those 2 months, but it's only if you're in the game. So you have to be in the game. You have to be readily available to know what's happening. So if you have to pivot quick or make a quick decision, you know how to maneuver through this market. Last year, I think it was, a big eye opener for a lot of people that didn't know how to, take the ending of 2022 into 2023. But now that you have that confidence of 2023, you can kind of have a better inference of what's going to happen in 2024. So therefore, you're going to be a little bit more risky if you have to take those risks because of your situation, your income, or whatever's happening in your life. I think right now is the perfect time to plan so that you can actually execute and accomplish what you want to do.
Yeah, it's about preparation for me. I mean, we talk about that, and it's almost too quick of a final bottom line point, but it is true. Like, if you're prepared and you want to buy a house, you're going to have to get your house in order, your financial house in order, because you also won't be the only one doing it. There will be other people competing because the demand is high and the supply is low. The cost might be there. Affordability is competing against for every dollar you make every single month. So, more than ever, I would say, we're back to the more than ever part.
Yeah.
More than ever, you now need to have your crap together if you're going to try to get into the home.
I mean, I just feel like here we go again.
Okay.
Right? Rates going high. Inflation is not in our favor. It came in high because we continue to spend money, And so it was great that the Fed was saying, last year, we're going to cut rates 6-8 times. By the looks of all of this, guys, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Not with the data like you just mentioned, Brian. Data is going to make the Fed pivot in a different direction. Even though they said they were going to do something, they're not always going to comply with that
100%.
because the data is just going to come out. And next week, we got their best PCE, right? And then we got freaking the sell-off of the treasury auctions.
Yes.
So it's going to be a lot.
So on the financial side, behind the curtain, what we're talking about is, what we're partially talking about is Fed decision making or indecision making and getting to credit or blame the data. Because they said, we're going to let the data tell the tale. And so now we get to blame the data when it doesn't work, and we're going to give the data credit when it does. And we're talking about the correlation between mortgages and the 10-year yield.
Yeah.
So that 10-year yield kind of flirting and flying past 4 and going to 4.25, 4.3.
Yeah.
Again, now that means mortgage rates are going to edge up as well, and
Correct.
they did so. So they are mostly in lockstep more than any other correlating factor. It's mortgage rates go up while the 10-year goes up. Mortgage rates go down when the 10-year yield goes down.
And here's the thing. I think that the reason why the community is so much smarter now with all the information that's out there now. Like I really feel like so many of us are giving back to the community by informing them of these changes that are happening. That's making them like, well, you know, at 7%. I don't even think at 6% I was able to afford. So why would I even go now at 7%?
Yeah.
You know, now I know that my monthly payment is going to be a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Right? Everything I have is just going to be that much more expensive. If I do get into this property, I already know, like I always say, I stuck to the dollar menu at McDonald's back in the day and Jack in the Box. You know, maybe they'll have to, and that was only for a few months. Not this time around, they may have to stick with it for a few years. Top ramen and dollar menu at the Jack in the Box.
Yeah, I think this puts pressure on the Fed, honestly. I'm not saying that the mortgage industry as an industry or even real estate as an industry gets to sit at the table with all the Fed members while they make the decision on whether they increase rates, keep rates the same, or decrease them, or cut rates, sorry. But you have to, you at some point you have to look and go, okay, what's it hurting over there? Is it hurting that? Oh, it's hurting that? Okay, then what else does that hurt? Like there's these second order, third order effects that happen. You make a decision upstream that changes everything downstream, and you can only go so long before you actually have to face this and look at what's going on in the bond market and the mortgage space and go and ask, is this helping us achieve our overall goal? Because if it is not the top priority, then that means something else is.
Correct.
It's inflation or it's stability or something else. It's jobs.
I'm going to say it, but I don't want to say it.
And that's the thing, right?
Hold on. And if it's not the second, housing isn't the second thing or the third thing or the fourth thing, then all those things above it are way more important, and we got to keep our eye on those things.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean,
100%. I'm not even going to say what I wanted to say because.
Oh, jeez, come on. Okay, is it about politics?
Well, it was. So I just, I'm gonna. I'll hold it for after.
Every administration that is in power at the time that there's an election year with the Fed, there's obviously going to be games afoot, if you will, because there's a part of it where they're dealing with the repercussions of decisions made during the last one and decisions made during the current one, while also trying to not rock the boat for whatever's going to come next, so that their thumb isn't on the scale. That's the deal. Now, I'm just saying I'm saying that impartially. I'm not suggesting that everyone that follows this believes that. I'm saying that impartially. Do I think the thumb's on the scale for some things? Absolutely. Do I think it's off for some others? Yeah, totally.
Of course.
It totally
always is.
Thank you for.
But
thank you.
I mean, who knows how they're going to pivot when our economy continues to be strong?
Well, but what I know, by what measure, right? I know,
but that's what they're saying, right? Like it's strong. So here we are. Our jobless claims is less than we anticipated.
But what's crazy is that you speak to the people around you every day, at the table. Everyone's kind of like, yo, what the fuck's going on here? Like, I'm hurting this way or this is happening. Like, but then you go to the numbers. Hey, we're great. Economy's great. Bidenomics.
You have to remember that if you go and you have a second job or a third job, that still counts as employed, even though you are the same person. So the number of people didn't change. It did on paper, but it's still you doing it. Yeah. So if you have a full-time job here and you're moonlighting somewhere else and you got another job, and that counts as employed, then you're employed now. One person doing three. Yeah. So that's part of it. The other part of it that you have to remember is that
I forget that part.
Is that there's the stock prices and the health of the stock market can also be disconnected from the functions of the economy that we would call normal. So just because prices are going high on certain stocks or on certain indices does not necessarily reflect the overall health of something. Yeah. It reflects how much money is going into that system by the people that are playing it. So basketball sales at Big Five or whatever sports store you want to name does not indicate how many people are watching NBA.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
100%.
So you have to remember that the stock market is detached in some ways from a lot of the data that we look at to make decisions. And also, again, the Fed has openly said, whether this is posturing or true, we don't want to be saying or doing things that are going to just leverage the market in one way or another. Yeah. And they also know that they can't do things that's going to crash it because that unfolds and unwinds everything else that they're connected with. So there is a problem on both sides. They're handcuffed on both sides of the deal.
All right. So I think last year you mentioned, Andy, you thought the Fed would cut the rates this time of year. If I'm not mistaken,
that by April. Yeah.
By April. We mentioned that, but how many cuts?
I said 3 to 4.
3 to 4.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
No,
I said 3.
I don't know.
I said 3 to
That
4.
was so long ago.
because here there was talks last week where they're thinking of increasing it.
Well, they might have to.
Yeah.
Again,
You know?
that's where you get to blame the data.
Exactly.
Oh, the data says we should increase rates one more time. Well, it's because the data said.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's where you get the benefit and the advantage of blaming it or giving it credit based on how it's going to help you and make the
Yeah.
move you need to make and go, yeah, well, I had to do what I got to do.
Yeah. So
You know?
So here's the thing, guys. In these situations, we really can't really say that's going to happen because it just may not even happen. The best thing to do is, like Brian says, just prepare.
Yeah.
You know, just be prepared for certain
Yeah.
situations to occur,
Yeah.
and you'll be good.
Yeah. I mean, wait, what does it say? Read
I
this.
say no. I can't read that.
No, you can't read this?
No, I can't read.
Oh,
it.
okay. I'm not
I'll
going to
tell
read
you
that.
after. Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
I'll show you
Is that about electric vehicles?
Yeah. There's another thing,
yeah,
right?
something like
Sorry
that.
about electric vehicles. No, no. I think the takeaway for me on this part of the article, or at least about mortgage applications slumping. I mean, again, it's
course.
slumping from a place where it had peaked. You know, it had already accelerated coming into the end of 2023 and into 2024, starting in January. Again, I also cannot sit here and pretend like business is not happening. You guys have more business now than you did last month. So, like, am I going to say that that's not happening? I'm not going to
Yeah.
sit here and lie that you have less business
Well,
in February.
here's
than
the
you did
other
in January.
thing.
You have
The
more.
people that we're representing right now are more investors too.
Yeah.
They're not very interest rate prone. They understand that right now it's going to cost me a little more than the norm, but I already know in time that cost is going to be reduced because I'll
Yes.
refinance, sell, or whatever it may be.
So that's my
Very
question to you.
different.
So let's-
Long-term commitments.
when
Yeah.
we're sharing with people about these long-term commits, tell them what kind of long-term commits are you talking about. They're making a decision today that might be, let's say, semi-painful, but it's going to be for they're making this choice for what, 5 years, 10 years,
Correct.
15 years?
Yes.
So I met with the clients yesterday, and they currently own a property. They have 2 kids that have kids as well, and they're moved out. But their goal is that in 2 to 3 years, they want to buy a property right now, so then they could fix up, and in 2 to 3 years sell for a profit, take those proceeds, and then buy a forever house. I thought it was very nice that they had that plan in motion, and they had the realities of knowing that, hey, it's going to take time. It's not going to happen from one month to another. We're going to work at it. And the prices, when I showed them, they're like, hey, that's what the prices were, basically what I was seeing, what I was researching. So it's like, I'm not surprised. It's not the payment that I want or would like. But, we know that down the line, we're going to get that, in Spanish, they say plusvalía, but in English, it's like that equity that they're going to be able to squeeze out and take out.
Yeah.
And that's their goal, because they want to be able to have a place for their grandkids, for their kids that come back and be able to, have a family there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in my case, with the investor, he's just looking to buy his daughter another house.
There it is.
Well, a house for her. She just graduated and with her master's degree and says, hey, I need to put my money somewhere, invest it in something because I need the tax benefits. So instead of using the daughter as a co-signer and go with the conventional side of things, he just said, I'm not going to go that route, to get the lower interest rate. I'd rather go as a non-owner occupied because I want to take advantage of the tax benefits, my write-offs. And those are the things that he needs. So
Nice.
It's things like that that are happening.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Well, another great show today. Thank you so much
Yeah, of course.
for being prepared and coming with your comments and your perspectives. What was your favorite part of the show today?
My favorite part actually was the how do we solve the California housing crisis? When you really dig into it, you really don't understand unless you really look into this and you're kind of going through the building of ADUs. You'll understand the process of permitting, and you have to have a good friend in the county or the city that you're getting the permits, right? So that you can get a faster flow. So for me, it was more of that. My takeaway of just knowing more that there's more that we can do and should be doing in order to solve our crisis here.
Awesome. How about you, Brian? What was your favorite part of the show today?
Mine was the fact that they've been passing legislation since 2016 and nothing has really worked. So it's not my favorite
But
part.
why does that surprise you?
But it's most surprising because I'm like, if you guys step in to help and you guys are supposed to help us, you guys are like, 24 years behind. That's really what I got from it. I'm like, yo, you guys know what we need to do. I'm sure you guys have the ability to do it. Yeah, we're I don't know.
What are we going to do?
What are we doing,
Yeah.
I want to say it, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt her channel.
No, I think it's not gonna.
But
hurt.
honestly,
You're
like
fine.
looking at it from that point of view is just like,
Yeah.
well, if they're meant to help us and build the avenues for us to be able to freely do what we want to do,
Yeah.
now it sounds like they're putting all these restrictions and roadways so that we don't get done what we want.
roadblocks? Yeah.
Roadblocks.
Roadblocks, got
Sorry, I was on a rant.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my most surprising thing. Not favorite, but most surprising. I'm like, God damn, California, get it together
Jeez.
yet again. What was that Facebook group? Nah, just kidding.
My favorite part today is actually our first article, guys. The 39-year-old millionaire who rents, why she's so much happier not being a homeowner. It was interesting because, and I chose that today because I am very curious about the generations coming behind us and what it is that is inspiring them to do and not do certain things with real estate or not with real estate.
Yeah.
And in this case, you get a perspective from both sides of owning and not owning, having had real estate and selling it, having business success and paying off over $300,000 of debt. And it's a great example of someone who came from a household of 9 children, was 8th of 9 from immigrant parents. You can do this if you want to.
Yeah.
If you apply yourself and you stay the course on what you commit to, you can have a situation just like this, and then maybe you're not the renter, you're the owner. Maybe you own 5 or 6 properties. You may have sold 3 or 4 like she did, but this is a great example and I think an inspiring story of people to really make qualified choices that they want to based off their values, and I really liked that.
Gotcha.
There was a lot of details in there. I do think maybe it would have been beneficial to keep some of the homes as investment properties, but hey, that's because we sit in this chair. We're a mortgage business. I'm going to be inclined to think that a little bit. But I really like that story. It was good to it was great to have a new perspective.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys so much for another great
Yeah,
show.
thank you.
And
Of
thank you
course.
all for watching and
Yes, thank you,
commenting.
guys. Thank you.
We've had a really enjoyable beginning to the year, watching the channel grow and talk with you guys on and offline. Thank you so much for commenting, liking, sharing. Remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Send it to someone you care and love about. Care about and love? Care and love about?
Love and
care.
care.
About, love about?
Love, care.
Who you love and
About.
care about, I guess. And also, if you have not yet checked out our another playlist called Friends of Mortgage Heroes, where Mem O'Brien and I interview our friends in and around real estate, check out that other playlist called Friends of Mortgage Heroes. You're going to find a lot of intellectual gems and some great guests.
Yeah, and thank you guys. I have fun going into the comment section and seeing the comments. It's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So thank you guys for continuing to just be so supportive to us.
Yeah, quick shout out to Amber, real estate agent, no real estate agent, insurance agent out in
Insurance,
the
yeah.
Reno Tahoe area, who actually commented about insurance on the Reno and California side, because it's covering
nice.
both
It's
sides
right there.
of the territory. So shout out to Amber on that. Thank you for
Yes.
commenting, and hopefully we get some more insights, because I think she works for AAA.
All
And
right.
we hadn't heard from someone from AAA, so we've heard from other people, but that was interesting. So thank you guys.
But yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you very much. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, guys.
See ya.